Whether you're ordering wings for the game, whipping up a 7-layer dip, or ordering pizza, there's something about football that makes you want to eat. And this football season, Uber Eats has the best deals on game day food. No matter what you're craving, from 2-for-1 pizza to buy one, get one wings, Uber Eats will be dropping new deals each week, all season long. Uber Eats, official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
Business taxes. Was stressing about all the time and all the money you spent on your taxes.
This is my bill?
Now Business Taxes is a TurboTax small business expert who does your taxes for you and offers year-round advice at no additional cost, so you can keep more money in your business. Now this is taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on turbotax.com/business. Only available with TurboTax Live full service.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Pointless Exercise podcast. It's Thursday, so we're going to talk to our friend Tom Loxas. Tom, how are you?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me, Andy.
So, did you get your Pointless Exercise newsletter the last 2 days?
I did. I did.
Right. Did you notice anything different about it?
Yeah, I did notice the "we're moving" sign.
Oh, that's right. Yes, that's right. But otherwise, everything was fine, right? You got your newsletter.
Yeah, everything else
basically
is
the same. Same hilarity you're used to. Yeah, good.
Oh, yeah.
So I switched platforms. I'm no longer on Substack for two reasons. Number one, too many Nazis. But number two, they take a fee on every subscription that I just thought was standard till I found out, no, you can go to other places. But they don't take that fee. You get that money. So, let's do that. So I moved. The easiest thing was to move the free subscribers, the freeloaders, the ones who just want they will read like the first third of everything. Like, I think I know what he wants. I think I know what he's up to. And then they get the free ones. That was no problem. It was a little more difficult to move the paid ones. But I did. So even if you're a paid subscriber, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to. Everything's fine. It's going to renew when it was going to renew. Everything will work. So you don't have to do anything. Because what I had was, after I moved the paid, the final step was you move the paid from the Substack, but then you delete them too, so Substack doesn't accidentally charge them again. And like an hour after I did that, some people who I know have paid subscriptions were signing up on Substack for free because you no longer couldn't buy a subscription on Substack. We had unhooked that. But I'm like, oh guys, no, you don't need to do that. So yeah, so we successfully moved and everything's wonderful. New platform's great. Can't wait. We had some sad news today. Actually, today was just a bad day all around. Not only did Mr. Baseball, Bob Uecker, die, but then David Lynch died this afternoon.
Yeah.
Jeez. So it forced me to get out my copy of Catcher in the Rye, WRY, which is Bob Uecker's 1982 autobiography that he wrote with sports writer Mickey Herskowitz, which I read as a kid. I think it's probably the first like sports biography I ever read. And it's a doozy. It is still one of the funniest books I've ever read. I was flipping through it this afternoon looking at it, and everything makes me laugh. One of the things that is incredible about this is a little thing like the pictures in the middle of the book. See, there's a picture of him famously. This is before Game 2 of the 1964 World Series. I'm showing it. I'm talking about it on an audio podcast, but I'm showing it to Tom. There is Bob playing the tuba in the outfield of Sportsman's Park. So what had happened was there had a Dixieland band on the field, and one of them left their sousaphone unattended. Bob picked it up, thought it was funny to pretend to blow in it, gets pictures taken. But then it was batting practice. He caught some batting practice fly balls in the tuba. And as you would expect, he pretty much destroyed the tuba. And the Cardinals had to buy the tuba player a new tuba. And then Bob got a bill for the tuba, which was basically the equivalent of his World Series share. So congratulations, Bob. It was funny, and now you didn't make any money in the World Series. But the pictures in the middle of the book, the captions are hilarious. They're worth it. Yeah. The book is worth it for that alone. This is a first edition, so it's 40 some years old. It's the only book he ever wrote that I know of, and it's just really funny. So Bob was a pretty incredible guy when you think about it. So here's a guy who was good enough to be a Major League Baseball player, a bad one, but he played for 6 years. It's not like he was there for a week.
Yeah.
But he was a play-by-play voice of the Brewers for 50 years with a play-by-play guy's voice. Where it's reminiscent of Dwayne Kuiper with the Giants, where this player just sounds like a broadcaster even though he's not. And he was a good play-by-play announcer too. He wasn't just like mechanically, he was really good if you listen to him. Then he's just naturally funny. But on top of that, there's a difference. He was funny, but he also was an incredible storyteller. So you got all that in one. So if the Brewers, if it was a close game, Bob was going to do a good job telling it. But if it got out of hand, the broadcast was actually probably going to be more entertaining now because Bob was just going to go into story mode and start telling you all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and that's probably the hardest part about being a baseball play-by-play guy. So when you have that going for you, that's huge.
And he worked for I don't know how many years with Pat Hughes.
Yeah.
The Brewers do it weird. I don't know. They won't have to do it anymore like this because he won't be there. They break up the game with the radio announcers where you don't do every inning. But Bob would, after he got done going to take a whiz and hitting the craft services table or whatever they call it, he would sit in the back of the booth while the other guy was working, Pat Hughes or Joe Block or whoever the guy was. And all of a sudden you just hear him talking, like sometimes on mic, sometimes off. And he would think of a story and just start telling it. So then all of a sudden Bob's working again, even though it wasn't his inning. And nobody ever cared because it was Bob.
Yeah.
But
you're right.
Pat wasn't his partner. He was his sidekick. It was the Bob Uecker show and Pat was there. But that was I remember that because that's where I live basically. If there was another game on and you were on, we could always turn the Brewers on. Yeah. So I heard a lot of Bob. That was great. Anyway, so that's
and growing up as a kid, in the 80s, like Bob Uecker was a TV star. He was always on Johnny Carson or doing the Miller Lite commercials that were funny. But Mr. Belvedere, I mean, I don't know how you feel about Mr. Belvedere, but I thought that show was funny when I was a kid.
It's funny. There were so many bad sitcoms back then.
Totally.
And Mr. Belvedere actually was a funny show.
Mm-hmm. He had good tension with Mr. Belvedere.
Yeah. I do forget though, Bob changed jobs either during the first season or they gave up. They just made they made his character like a sports writer, 8 episodes in. He just all of a sudden had a new career that they never bothered to explain. He just was that. Yeah. And if you want to, there's a great Howard Stern interview with Artie Lang and Norm Macdonald. Norm and Bob were friends. And Artie went to a Cubs Brewers spring training game with Norm, and he told some out of school stories about Bob, about things Bob did.
Oh boy!
And Bob got mad at Norm for letting Artie. He called him Artie Klein. That Artie Klein, he needs new material if he's going to talk about me. And they're like, well, all right, that's not his name, Bob, but that's fine. But in that interview on Stern, they talk about Bob talking about what's his name? Was it Christopher Hewitt? Whoever the Mr. Belvedere.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's some good stuff about Mr. Belvedere because they ask him directly about, the rumor that Mr. Belvedere, sat on, famously, that he sat on his own balls.
Oh,
Well, that's not the only thing Bob talks about with Christopher, with whatever that guy's name is. Yeah, and then there's a whole generation that knows him just from Major League.
yes. And I was going to say, how do I not mention Major League? It still might be my favorite baseball movie.
Yeah, and the guys who made that movie said some of Bob's lines were written. A lot of them were not.
Yeah, improvised a lot.
A lot of them were. And I think, the most famous one, the one that gets repeated by every hack broadcaster and by all of us, anytime a ball gets, like if Tyler Chatwood was pitching. Just a bit outside, but apparently he quickly tried the corner and missed, and that wasn't like part of it. That was just, and they said those guys would sit in the booth with him while he was doing it, and have to like make sure they were far enough away from his mic so they didn't laugh and ruin his takes. I would love to hear. I wish they had like an outtake reel.
Yeah, that would be great.
Stuff from that he tried that they didn't use. Well, so there's not much left that's endearing about the Brewers now. Bob was like my last connection to them that I could stand, but that's all right. Speaking of baseball, did you get your tickets to the Cub convention?
No, they've been delayed apparently.
Oh. Well, hopefully they show up because it's tomorrow or today when most people are going to listen to this. You better get over there, Tom.
I think the last time I went was the last time I was there was 10 years ago when we all met up at was it Lizzie? Was it McGuire's?
Lizzie McGuire's.
Yeah,
that was fine. It was. I missed Shitty O'K's.
Yeah,
Kitty O'Shea's, the bar in the Hilton.
Yeah, I remember that.
But that Lizzie night was fun. The difference now is because it's not in the hotel. Lizzie's is like across the street, right? If I remember right, it's kind of like down and over.
Mm-hmm.
The chances of having all the old retired players wander in is much lower. It's not zero, but it's much lower. And that was always the highlight of the Kitty O'Shea's experience was all of a sudden you turn around and, Tim Stoddard is he's standing there and he's going to talk to you for 20 minutes because he needs a friend. So we do miss that. I wrote about some of my famous moments at Cub conventions over the years. I can't remember how many I went to. I feel like I went to 4 with my dad. My mom, for a good run there, would buy him 2 tickets for Christmas and then say, I'm not going. Andy's going with you because I don't want to go. So I'm like, okay. So I always went. And it was fun. It was, not a lot. Over the years I went, not a lot changed. It was like, are we still doing the same stuff again? All right, I guess.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind sitting in on a couple of those panels. I always thought the panels with the front office are interesting, and you always got to at least see how uncomfortable they can make Ricketts. But other than that's be about it. And those are harder to get into.
You're not gonna sit for they're airing. Not only are they airing the opening ceremonies on Friday night, but Saturday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's the only thing that's on marquee. They're gonna do every panel. I'm sure you would just sit there glued to it for 8 hours.
I'm sure you're going to be glued to the Ryan Dempster talk show.
Oh, I love it. It's my favorite.
That's got to be your favorite, yeah.
Oh, I just wish Marquis would make that every night, a 5-night-a-week talk show. It'd be amazing.
I don't know. They haven't yet.
He's probably too busy. I'm sure they would love to. Yeah, the people that they humor. But that's all right. It's It'll be interesting. I will be very interested on Friday night to see Sammy's entrance.
Yeah.
If they go alphabetically, I noticed this today when I was writing my icebreakers for everyone to give. If you run into one of the Cubs, I gave you a handy one-liner you could start a conversation with. Alphabetically, it would go Ryan Sandberg and then Sammy Sosa.
Ooh.
I don't think they'll do that. Actually, I would guess. Don't you think Ryan goes last?
Yeah, especially with
I mean,
his,
considering everything he's going through, or
could
would
be
they just?
Samma, but yeah, it could be Sammy.
Yeah. Well, that's true. I mean, they really are going to milk this. And then the other thing they do on Friday night is they announce the prestigious new inductees to the Utility Tunnel of Fame. And John Greenberg and I talked about this on a podcast. Sammy's got to be one of them, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, don't you think that's why they finally broke down and played nice?
Yeah.
And if they always do two, which is what they've done so far, I'm guessing this guy's coming. I'm guessing it's Sammy Sosa and Derek Lee. I'm guessing they're the two new.
Yeah, that would be solid.
Yeah. It's really odd to me that they didn't rig it so that Derek Lee and Aramis went in together.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Shouldn't it have been Kerry and Sammy last year and then Aramis and Derek this year? I mean,
yeah, maybe they're just trying to like split these guys up a little bit.
Oh no, Tom! There's this huge panel that votes. The Ricketts don't have any control over any of it.
Yeah.
Oh, we can't control the voting. Like, oh, shut up. Like those ballots don't get counted. They go right in the shredder. You just pick two guys. So Sammy will be back. Also there for his one and only Cub convention will be Kyle Tucker. And they thankfully avoided an awkward scene by giving him $16.5 million today to play his 1 year for the Cubs. So thank God that's taken care of.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me that they couldn't do that before the arbitration deadline.
Yeah, I mean, I knew it wasn't anything to be concerned about, but at the same time, it's like, why let people even talk about it?
Yeah. It's just it's another Cub tripping over they trip over their dicks more than anybody I've ever seen. And that was a good way. He asked for 17.5. They offered 15. It's like, you're going to give him 16.5. Why don't you just do it now? And it was like a week later. That was never going to go to a hearing. There was no way that was going to go.
No,
but
that would be bad.
It would have been a fascinating hearing. So, for people who don't know how arbitration works, basically a representative for the player talks about why he deserves the money he's asking for, and then a representative from the team talks about why he doesn't deserve the money that he's asking for. Here you've got this brand new player that you just traded for, and now all you have to talk about is why he sucks. Well, sure, we traded 3 players for him. He's not really that good. We can't pay him this. I mean, come on. Yeah. His shins are made out of paper mache. Did you see that last year? He hit one little ball off his shin, and he was out for 3 months. I mean, come on. Lucky we could pay him anything. The year you went to the convention, did you go to the dance party?
No, I missed the dance party.
I couldn't believe that was a thing. So, Friday night is like opening ceremonies, and maybe there was a panel. There must have been a panel. Now there's the Ryan Dempster talk show, which is great. And then Saturday is and then Friday everybody goes to the bar on Friday night, and that's fun. And then Saturday is your wall to wall sessions. They'll have one on meet the coaching staff, and they'll have one on usually they keep the prospects, the poor prospects get stuck on Sunday morning because there's got to be something on Sunday morning. But they do the kids press conference, which actually can be pretty funny sometimes.
Yeah,
the kids' parents will put them up to make them ask a question that they would never have the balls to ask.
Yeah.
They do that. Usually they'll have one with the pitchers. They'll have one with some of the hitters, and they'll do stuff like that. That's pretty good. Well, then, after that peters out in the afternoon. And then the way we always did it was we would go to dinner, and then you go back to the bar on Saturday night for a little bit and realize that's nobody there. The thing that happened Friday is not going to happen again on Saturday. But across the lobby from Kitty O'Shea's was this other ballroom. And I remember the first year we were there was all this like disco music coming out of this ballroom. And my dad is like, what the fuck is that over there? And so he went to go to the bathroom and he stopped on his way back and I could see him. He stops, he looks in the thing and he just turns. He knows where I am. He just turns and he has this like ashen look on his face. Like someone has like, I thought maybe there'd been an accident and there was a corpse like on the floor in there and he's just waving me over. So I put my drink down and head across and we pour our head in and it was sweatpant prom is what it was. It was all these pasty overweight Iowa Cub fans dancing. It's like, oh,
what are they dancing to?
Disco music.
Oh boy.
And it went on for like 3 hours. They don't do it anymore. They replaced it with Cubs bingo. Okay.
It's much more appropriate.
I told the story in the one this morning about, I don't know if they still, I'm sure they still do this. I hope they still do this. Down in like the first floor of the Hilton, there was like vendors and stuff were there. I bought some bobbleheads. I bought a really cool, actually the coolest thing I bought was this oversized McFarlane of Brian Urlacher at a Cub convention. And it's really nice. Like Kevin Kadick was down there one year signing copies of his book. So I stopped by and said hi to Kevin. But anyways, there's vendors down there. But then there was a big room to the side that was the Cubs garage. I didn't call it the garage sale. I was called the garage sale. And they're just selling old like game used and practice used stuff. And it's the stuff like you're not gonna back in the day you weren't gonna buy a game used Sammy Sosa jersey at this thing. Sammy was that was gonna get auctioned off for like Cubs charities. That wasn't gonna But I told a story in the newsletter this morning. I swear to God this happened. I'm looking around. There's all the used jerseys around this big rack. It's like the sale, like the clearance rack at Kohl's. There's this big thing by size.
Yeah. Doesn't Greenberg usually like tweet some of that stuff out?
Yeah. And this lady she has her like, I don't know, their 10, 11-year-old son. He's next door. And they're going through the jerseys. And he's not very big. They're going through the jerseys. And all of a sudden she stops. And that's what caught my attention. Was like she saw something. I'm like, oh, I wonder what it is. And so she grabs this jersey and she holds it up in front of the kid. And it looks like it's going to fit. And so then she turns to show it's a road jersey. And I can't see the number on the front. She holds it up to show her husband. And I saw what it was before he did. And I laughed. And then he saw it. And it was Wendell Kim. It was a Wendell Kim game used jersey.
Wow.
And she bought it. And the kid put it on. It fit. So this 10-year-old was the same size as former Cub third base coach, 5'2" third base coach Wendell Kim. Yeah, I always bought cheap shit there because I didn't.
Well, you could maybe try going this year. Maybe you can get a Madrigal jersey for your dog.
Oh, that would, yeah. Well, at least for one of the smaller ones.
That's what I meant.
The Rat Terrier. You're not healthy. You wouldn't be able to wear it. You're 30 pounds. You can't wear that. I got to find them. I know I still have them. I bought 2 Hank White locker nameplates.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
One from spring training and one from the Cub locker room. And I have grand total of the 2. I remember this. $4.
Wow.
I have a feeling under the Ricketts Cubs.
It's like Cubs thrifting.
Those are $49 a piece. You're not getting away with anything cheap. But that was the kind of stuff. So,
yeah.
The Cubs are hopefully still in shopping for players because I don't expect an announcement. I don't think this is like, oh, we're going to save an announcement for the convention. I don't think. Although one of my favorite things
surprise for you.
Yeah. One of my favorite things was Theo at his introductory press conference basically saying, we're not going to be doing any of this kind of like, we're not going to be bringing back old favorites and stuff during this rebuild. And then at the Cub convention, they brought Kerry Wood back.
Yep. That was like, wow.
I don't think we're going to get like an announcement at the convention. But
I was like the Cubs marketing guy going, come on, please, let's just do one more.
And it always works so well when they bring back former players. It's always a good idea. Ladies and gentlemen, Mel Rojas is back. What? He's 52 years old. No. From what I can think, right, they still need, it'd be nice to have another back end of the bullpen reliever.
Definitely.
Like Tanner Scott. Is that his name? Tanner Scott?
Yeah. Tanner Scott would be nice.
Who they should have got from the Marlins last year, but they let him go to the Padres instead. Now they could just get him from the Padres and not have to give up any precious prospects. I have a feeling that starting pitching wise, the Colin Ray thing was like, oh, now we're good. Don't understand that at all. But that's fine. Excuse me. But they still need, they need to cover themselves at third base, right? I don't think you can just be like, oh, we're just going to Matt Shaw. Well, one name keeps coming up over the last week, and I'm sure it's just because his agent is leaking it and throwing teams' names. Who, if you have a hole at third base, he's using it. But now there is some hope among some Cub fans that Alex Bregman is not getting the long-term deal offers that he wants. And what if he would sign a pillow contract to come play for the Cubs? Would you sign a Cody Bellinger-esque contract with Alex Bregman, where your plan would be he'd play third base for you this year, that has such a good year, that then he would go on to free agency next year, and then next year, like this year, Matt Shaw could be your utility infielder. Play some third, play some second, play whatever. Would you be interested in that?
Oh, hell yeah. And I think it would make total sense. And I wouldn't mind that it's a short-term deal just because, you've got these kids that might not be quite ready. And Shaw's one of them. We don't know how ready he is. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. And, as much as I think the most important thing they need is a closer or even a starting pitcher, I feel that Bregman would just make that lineup scary enough where the offense isn't going to be you shouldn't be a problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I feel like 2, 3, 4, they would be really, scary to pitch to.
Yeah. I feel like
I don't think it's going to happen though. I do think, like you said, I think that it's an agent thing.
Yeah.
Too bad. I'd love to see it. And you never know. I mean, if it drags on, you never know. But at the same time, I think it sounds like it's more, posturing.
I feel like there's still a bat short.
So, I would definitely still like one more bat. We're not going to get everything on our wish list.
So I thought about it. I'm like, hey, that would be perfect, right? Like, 1 year commitment to a good player. It actually helps you like get your third baseman of the future ready because you don't just throw him into the fire. But then I got to thinking, if I'm Jed, that's why I said, would you sign to the Cody Bellinger contract? Because I can see Jed like, well, he got stuck with Cody. What did we get stuck with Bregman, who has, like, as recently as 2022, he was an OPS plus of 134. Well, last year was 118, which is still really good. You'd love that, and you would take that. But like his on-base average took a huge drop. Like he's a career 366 on-base guy. Last year was 315.
Okay.
And he's 31.
Yeah. And
I could see the Cubs galaxy braining themselves into, no, we can't do that. It's too risky. It's like, I don't think Alex Bregman is risky. Like, I think he's going to want to go. And I think, I think you could do it. I just have a feeling. I think we're going to get really pissed because I think somebody is going to sign him to that. We're going to look at the contract he gets and be like, that the Cubs should have done that. Like, why wouldn't the Cubs have done that? I just have a feeling.
If he gets more than 3 years, then I'd be no problem.
Right.
But
right.
Anything less than that, I'd like to at least figure out what it is.
Yeah.
But I'm of the mind, like, where no matter what, if they get a closer, I'll be content. But I just don't want to go into this year without one, because I feel like that's the thing that can really, kill this team like it did last spring.
Yeah,
was just all those blown saves.
Well, and it just makes the risk you're taking with Tucker that much dumber then.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, that move is a really smart move if you add pieces around him and you're like, all right, we're going to try to win something real this year. If you add him and then you do what they've done so far and stop, it's like, why did you bother to do this?
Yeah.
What was the, way to go. You got a good player that we're going to watch playing. And we're going to spend all of July wondering, are they close enough in the wild card race to not flip him I mean, that's I'm already bracing myself for that July discussion with everybody. Like, well, are they close enough to the playoffs to keep Kyle Tucker? Or are they just going to flip him? It's like, oh, this is what it turned into. I don't know. It sounds like Jack Flaherty might end up with a short deal too, because teams are still freaked out about his back. Remember, the Yankees nixed a trade for him at the deadline last year. That's how he ended up with the Dodgers, because they
right.
And that's another guy that if he ends up signing a 1 year or a 1 or 2 year deal, like I could see him signing a Carlos Rodon with the Giants kind of deal where it was good money, not great money for 1 year, and then a guaranteed and then a player option for the second year at a number that would make a team a little uncomfortable if he got hurt. It worked out fine for the Giants because Rodon went to the Yankees and then he fell apart. But it's another one where if he ends up signing a 1 year deal with an option and then he's good again like he was last year, and you have Colin Ray, it's just going to piss you off.
I still think. No, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say I think they'll end up with either a starting pitcher or a back at the bullpen guy.
Yeah, I think they have got to add an arm to that bullpen. I agree. Killed them. It has killed them, like you said. It's killed them the last 2 years. You're just going to do it again? Nah, we're probably good this time. What? What leads you to believe that this time it's going to be different?
Sahadev was on the Score today, and he expects them to get a bullpen arm, like a legit one. So he's usually pretty careful in his.
Does he including Carlos Estevez as a legit bullpen arm?
I don't think so, but
okay, because if it's higher than the Charlie Sheen, people will get. I know I like to run jokes into the ground, but the fact that Carlos Estevez is Charlie Sheen's real name, that's all I'll ever be able to call this Carlos Estevez if he pitches even an inning for the Cubs. He'll just be Charlie Sheen.
That is that's a good nugget.
So if that's true, if that comes to fruition, that they add an arm better than that would be very good. Because I think that's the focus. They desperately need it. I wonder if I don't even know who Scott, and you hear Scott's name a lot, but not connected to the Cubs, more so to the Mets right now. And then Estevez is connected to the Cubs. I don't even know who else is out there. Or is this a trade for a back end of the bullpen guy, which I'd be fine with.
Yeah, I think that Scott makes a lot of sense for them, but we'll see what kind of deal we're looking at. I think, there's only so much you really want to do for. I know they don't usually pay for closers, but again, I think this is a situation where it could really make the difference between them and Milwaukee. So I think that, Council's always enjoyed having a really good bullpen. So I think it's important. If
Porter Hodge is actually pretty good, if you had him in the eighth, and then a real guy in the ninth, you'd be in really good shape at the end of these games. Yeah.
Plus, you don't know, where Ben Brown's role is going to be, and I think that he might be a really dynamite reliever.
Yeah.
You still want to see if he can start, but I think that his stuff really would play well at the back end of games. So
I kind of feel like with him too, because the neck injury happened on like July 8th, June 8th, something 8th.
Yeah, it was right in the middle of the summer.
He didn't take the step up in innings that he would have.
Right.
Which makes it dicey for you to even like how many starts are you going to get out of him? I think his role probably should be spot starter and then valued bullpen arm this year regardless, just because, you can't take the jump from 88 innings to 160 or whatever that he might if you were actually giving him, a fair amount of starts. So that might end up being a very good thing for them, because I do too. I think if you could just let him, I still remember his Cub debut, or his Major League debut, right? He pitches against Texas in game 2, I think.
Yeah.
And he comes in and he gets himself in trouble and then he gets out of it. And he doesn't allow a run. And he looks so relieved coming off the mound. Like Yan Gomes is like patting him on the chest. And Ben's like, oh, I can't believe I survived that, my first game. And then Counsell sent him out for another inning, and he gave up 6 runs.
Yeah.
It's like, Craig, he thought he was done. You should. I know that he shouldn't assume he's done, but he's 22 or whatever, and he thought he was done. And now this isn't going to go well, and it didn't. And it took him forever to get his ERA to something that wasn't laughable because of that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we'll see. So, yeah, I'm going to, I will be periodically making fun of the convention over the weekend. And then on Tuesday night, Praz and Oleg and I are going to do a Cub convention recap.
Okay.
On the podcast.
I'll have to check that out.
Oh, yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely check
it'll be
out.
Fun because there's plenty of stuff to make fun of. We will have plenty of material to use.
If Marquis is going to show the Sammy stuff in the front office panel, I'll watch that.
I'll just do what I did last year. I'll record. I still have a DVR because I still have Xfinity down here. I'll record that whole thing, and then I will, in between football on the weekend, I will leisurely zip my way from session to session, making fun of, whatever they say. It'll be fun. Honestly, last year, I was so impressed. I think this is the third year they've done this with the convention, that Marquis is doing this. Like, this is why you have your freaking network, right? Is to be able to do something like this. And the fact they actually did it, and they didn't sit there like, oh, that's going to cut into ticket sales because people can just stay home and watch it and not come. No, there's plenty of dorks that want to go to this thing. I was a dork who went to it for years. Don't worry about it. Just, this is a chance to sell your product to your prime fans. You should be shoving this stuff down our throats. The fact they don't do more of this kind of stuff is a mystery, not the fact that they're doing this. So good for them. I wanted to talk briefly about the never-ending, ongoing Bears coaching search, because we had a development this week where the Dallas Cowboys, much to my chagrin, told Mike McCarthy, not anymore. And immediately...
Now they do it. I've been thinking they're going to do this the last 2 years. Now they do it.
Yeah. Yeah, now when it fucks us. Immediately, Bear Force One was fueled up and sent to where Mike McCarthy lives. And the first in-person, second, because they did Thomas Brown. It would be hilarious if they had made Thomas Brown do a Zoom from his office. So the second in-person coaching interview was the Beav, Mike McCarthy.
Well, Rivera they brought in too.
Oh, Ron was there in person too? Well, he's an alum.
Yeah, he was there.
He
was in the back. He was somewhere. He was just walking around. So they were like,
they found him in the parking lot. They're like, hey, do you want to interview for the job? Sure. All right, good. It is reminiscent. I worked at the college I worked at in Michigan, though. One of the other ladies on the president's council with me was said that when she interviewed for the job she had been working at this college for 15 years, and she applied for a promotion. They did a national search, and because the other finalist on this round, I guess it was semifinalist, couldn't get to Traverse City, they did a video interview with this person. And then they told her, well, because we did a video interview with them, it would only be fair if we did one with you. She's like, okay, fine. So they tell her what room her video conference is in, and it's in the room right next to her office. So she walks into there and she sits down, and they're having trouble with the video conference. Now, literally, she's in one room across. She can hear them through the wall. They're having trouble with the thing. And funny. She finally walks over and knocks on the door and goes, maybe we should just do this in person. And they're like, okay, fine. So they brought it in. I could just see the Bears doing that with Thomas Brown, too, where they're like, no, it's not fair to everybody else. No, we got to do this on Skype. George signed us up for Skype. It's $39 a month because he didn't know there were free services he could use. We're going to use it, Thomas. Okay, fine. And they're like, you're not getting the job anyway. What do you care?
Yeah.
So anyway, Mike McCarthy, see if you are of a mind. I think right now, even with all these candidates, the 18 guys, literally, that are on their list, I think it's one or the other right now. I think it's Ben Johnson or Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, you're not the only one. I forgot there was somebody else in the sports media world that said the same thing. I think he told he was on Coward's show. I can't remember who it was. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I believe that.
You don't?
I
Okay.
think there's a lot to that, but I think that they still got some interesting interviews coming up here in the next couple of days. So I don't know. I don't know how you feel about McCarthy, but coming out of Green Bay, I really thought highly of him. And I still think fairly highly of him. But the Dallas thing just seems so bleh. You know, just like the way they lost games and just how disappointing they performed in the playoffs.
Well, here's the problem I have.
It's as a Bear fan, shine off him, yeah.
As a Bear fan, the thing I liked most about Mike McCarthy was he managed to hold Aaron Rodgers to 1 Super Bowl in 13 years. That's what I appreciated about him the most.
Okay, fair enough.
I do think he's probably... I think he's a competent NFL head coach. He runs, although I know there are people now, like the Robert Mays was talking about this. The offense he runs is still a pretty good offense, but it's sliding behind the times.
Yeah.
It's now more antiquated. That like it was cutting edge when the Packers were running it, and they were running some really cool stuff that people were like, "Oh man, this stuff's really good." And he hasn't. He evolved a little bit in Dallas, but he's not keeping up with it. That's the concern, right? Is like there are other things people are doing better now, and you're not doing that. They also said that even though his quarterbacks play really well in this offense, you know, Aaron Rodgers obviously was how many times did he win MVP, and then Dak has had great seasons for Mike. They said this offense is really difficult for the court. It asks a lot of the quarterback, which may actually be a reason why McCarthy would be interested, because he's probably going to. The Saints are interested in him too. Yeah. And I think he would look at it and say, well, that's no brainer. I mean, the Bears have the quarterback who could actually do this stuff. The Saints don't even have what I would do with Derek Carr, or Spencer Rattler. I do think there are things he would do, like he knows how to run an actual NFL, program.
Yeah.
I can't remember off the top of my head how many clock fuck ups there were. To me, the Packers always missed the playoffs missed the Super Bowl because their special teams did something extraordinarily dumb at just the wrong time, and that's what cost them. I don't remember that it was the Beavs fucking stuff up on the sideline. I don't know. I kind of feel like it's... I call him... Drew McGarry calls him that, and so I've always... He's been calling that forever, and I love it. He just looks, he looks like an enormous beaver over there. I feel like if you hired Mike McCarthy, everything with the Bears would get better.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if it gets to the level, like, better should not be the goal, right? I mean, yes, obviously better, but it needs... Aren't you really trying to build something like great? Not just...
Well, yeah. What's the thing we kept hearing all week? You could do a lot worse than Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, right.
It's like, the Bears have already shown you that. We know that.
Yes. Yeah, we know.
We saw it with the last guy. He was fucking horrible. But here's the thing. Like, I know, I want this shot. I'd rather roll the dice and get me one of those McVay Shanahan types.
Yeah.
That's all I'm asking for. I mean, I'm not saying there's other good coaches too out there. I'm just saying I want the shot that you're going to have, like Caleb said the other day on the St. Brown podcast. He just wants an offensive coach that he can grow with.
Yeah. He's like, I want to spend the next 10, 15, 19
years. He's way ahead of himself.
Years with this guy.
Slow down, but yeah. McCarthy's not doing that shit either.
He could. He'd only be 80 at the end of that.
Yeah. That's not going to work. But I'd rather take a shot. I honestly talked myself into thinking, even though I definitely think they want I think they need and want an offensive guy, I'd rather even take a shot on like Flores than him. And even though I talked myself out of Flores before, but I'm just saying, like, at least give me somebody that might have some upside. And I don't know. I feel like it's like, my wife, she tries to make something new like every week. Like McCarthy's getting like chicken and broccoli. It's like, all right, it's solid, but you're not going to be excited about it.
Yeah. I feel like, and I'm just guessing, I feel like Ryan Poles would want, if I were Ryan Poles, I would be the one pushing for Ben Johnson, right? Like, this is what we want. This is a chance to be great. And a young guy comes in and we work together and, we got a decade of whatever.
For sure.
And I feel like George, the McCarthy thing is like, would be really attractive to a guy like George, right? Like, we'd immediately be competent.
Yeah.
And if you're the GM you're the next to get fired at some point, you don't want competent, right? Like you want to take your shot. This might be the only shot you really get to hire an NFL coach. I know he hired Eberflus, but he picked one of three, basically is what they told him. He can hire anybody you want as long as it's one of these three. This is his shot to take a shot. And are you really going to take it on Mike McCarthy? That's the guy you're going to take the shot on? I don't see it, but who knows?
I mean, my hope is that they just want to pick his brain on how best to develop Caleb.
Yeah.
And I think they just want to hopefully compare and contrast with other coaches. But yeah, I do see the fact that I could live with it. I'll need a couple days.
Yes. It'll be
there.
That's just what you want is the first is you make the big announcement and your fan base is all immediately disappointed.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay.
That's not going to get people excited
within
about
a few
building a
days,
stadium.
most of us can talk ourselves into, all right, well, this will be, at least now, Caleb will be in a competent offense. They'll figure out a way to protect him. He'll be a better player. We know from the way the first round of the playoffs went that all of a sudden the NFC North doesn't seem as daunting as it did. I mean, what did the Vikings and Packers make you feel like? Oh my God! It feels like there's one really good team in the North, and then there's two that aren't all that great but are pretty good, and then there's the Bears, who honestly should have had a much better record than they had.
Right, and for how good the Lions are, teams slide pretty quickly, and if they lose Johnson and Glenn, you might see an effect from that.
Well, they're teetering on. They know this. Like this is that's why the injuries, I think, for them are more. They're like, this is really bad for them because I think they felt like this is their year to win because of that. Like they were lucky to have Glenn and Johnson come back. Yeah, and their salary cap. This is like the last year they could add. Now they're gonna have to start losing guys because the salaries are due and you just can't afford to do it. And like if their team had stayed reasonably healthy going in, and they're still really good even with the injuries. They still might very well go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But if they don't, I think they feel like this was their best chance, and it might not happen.
But yeah, so Minnesota's, they're still going to be in good shape just because I think O'Connell's such a good coach. I think he'll probably turn McCarthy into a pretty good quarterback too.
Yeah, and I wonder if Darnold, if people got enough freaked out by him that, maybe they could bring him back for another year. Because it's tough. They didn't get the normal thing. Like their plan was Darnold plays quarterback and JJ's the backup. Well, JJ didn't take a snap and barely practiced because he can't move. I almost wonder if they're like, can we just run that back one more time? If you're Sam, I don't think you can afford to do that. You have to go get a job.
Yeah, I think someone will talk themselves into Sam, and I think it'll be probably a short-term deal, but he'll get some money.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like the Steelers, maybe. Is they clearly
it's possible? Yeah,
they got to go get a quarterback. They don't have a quarterback.
The Jets.
Russ did. Russ was a nice patch, but it fell apart at the end. Like the limitations the limitations that he has now that he's not 28 anymore.
Well, that's the thing. Like one of the best parts of his game was as athleticism, and it's just not there anymore.
No,
he's gritting it out. Well, let me ask you this though. We talked about Johnson being a little off. I just do feel like I'm not sure because remember all the media portrayed Caleb to be this diva. Which, whatever. It doesn't seem to be completely the case. But with Johnson, I feel like he gets a lot of that too. And there seems to be like this aura about him that he's not only cocky, but he's like, very almost arrogant to think that he can go to Vegas and like turn that shit around just because Brady's like blowing smoke up his ass.
I mean,
if he takes that job.
God bless him if he goes there because I
was going to say, if he takes that job, I think it was. Who was it that said it? I think it's Danny Parkin said it. He's like, if he takes that job, like, he's not the guy, because that's not a smart guy. Then
I agree with that.
Just be the bitter me talking. But.
I mean, The Raiders don't. I mean, yes, Tom Brady is like he owns like 8% of the team. That's what you're signing up for then, because they don't have a quarterback. Their roster's lousy.
Right.
Their salary cap is in bad shape. That's a mess. That's a longer turnaround.
Yeah. Well, maybe he's really arrogant enough to think that if he could bring his own personnel guy in there, they can overhaul that thing, and then he'll seem like the bigger star.
He may look at it like, and I guess he could look at the Bear roster and go, well, yeah, it's a better roster, but I don't like the fit for a bunch of these guys. Yeah. Like they don't fit.
And I'm sure.
And I got to get rid of them. And I can't get rid of them because whatever. I can go to the Raiders. I can just start from scratch. But
right.
I just feel like if you go to the Raiders, you'll be back on the market in 3 years looking for another job.
It could be. Yeah.
The thing you supposedly were so worried about.
If he's such a great offensive coach, I'd rather hitch my wagon to a quarterback that you see something with, Who knows? Maybe he doesn't like Caleb, but I don't know. I think this is all a bunch of agent talk right now.
Yes, absolutely. And it's the same thing. People bitch about the dumbest stuff. Like, why are the Bears talking to so many people? Why are they not focused? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, all right, if Ben Johnson really is your number one target, you can't bring him back. You can't bring him for his first in-person interview until the Lions lose. So if they go to the Super Bowl, you can't bring him in until, what is it, like February, right? I want to win the Super Bowl. The day of Super Bowl, you can bring him in. What the hell else are you going to do with all this time? You might as well. It would be dumb not to be talking to people, right? It doesn't cost you anything to talk to somebody on Zoom or Skype or whatever they're doing and talk to them. But you just know the same people who are complaining about this would be complaining in the opposite direction if they weren't talking to a bunch of people. Well, typical Bears are too lazy to do the work, blah, blah, blah. It's like, all right, just stop it. It's like, we don't need to have, a 5-day conversation about this every week. We just don't. There's not enough happening right now.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
The only thing I have about Flores, I could be proven hysterically wrong. The Flores thing, I was kind of surprised they interviewed him at all, because to me, just knowing how George, Mr. Carry the NFL flag and blah, 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 the lawsuit has to bother George to no end. Sure. And I just can't imagine that they're going to be able to hire him. So
plus he seems a little off too, but I kind of, I kind of see what happens. It's like, there's definitely, I want to roll the dice rather than just have, plain Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, that's why my initial reaction when I saw the thing that the Cowboys and McCarthy decided to part ways was, oh no. And it was just because it's like, okay, that just feels like an easy fallback for the Bears. Right?
Yeah.
Like, this guy's got what is it? His winning percentage is right in between Don Shula and Tom Landry, I think.
Yeah, no, he's
won more playoff games in his career than every Bear coach combined since Hallis. Ditka on, or not even Ditka, like Abe Gibran on 10. McCarthy has 11. It's like, okay, we get it. He won 12 games two of the last 3 years with Dallas, blah, blah, blah. Yes, we know all this stuff. And if they hire him, like you said, give us 2 days and we'll be like, oh, this will be fine. Yeah. But it's just
like you alluded to, though, like when he was with Green Bay, he was a different coach. And that's just that the game is different since then. But when he was with Green Bay, we would have jumped at this.
Yeah. He still somehow managed to lose to the Bears 9 times in 13 years.
Wow.
Of course, that also means that he beat him. Or was it 18? He was 17-9. Was that
Lovey's teams are
13? Yeah,
Lovey's teams are pretty good, though.
Yeah. Yeah, Lovey actually erased the embarrassment for a while. They were actually able to go toe-to-toe with the Packers and beat them.
Yeah.
And he won his only conference championship at beautiful Soldiers Field.
That's right. Yeah. I was there. I'll freeze my ass off.
So last thing I want to talk about in football here was quickly the Patrick Finley and some other people are upset that because of Tom Brady's Fox duties and the fact he's doing the Lions game, he gets like extra time to like hang around with Ben Johnson. Do we think that's going to be a factor in all this?
Yeah, I definitely think it could be, and I think it's kind of crappy, but it's Tom Brady. Anybody else, they would be like, no, we can't have this. But
it's just too bad. For a long time, Hub Arkush was like the sideline reporter on CBS Radio.
Yeah.
And if he had been assigned this, then it'd be equal footing because Tom Brady would be talking to Ben, but so would Hub. And it'd be fine for the Bears. Actually, the Bears probably have the advantage. Well, I was talking to this Hub Arkish guy. He seems to know a lot about golden retrievers, Michigan football, and the Bears. I'm going to go there. All right, last thing I want to talk to you about is kind of related to that. Is the Sun-Times, Jeff Agrest printed his lists of the top 20 sports media personalities in Chicago. And then my favorite
about this.
My favorite, yes, everybody should be excited about this. My favorite is he also publishes the list of the bottom 5.
Oh gosh.
I'll just say I agreed with his bottom 5 a lot more than I did his top 5. So I'll just run through them real quick. We can do a quick rapid fire, but we'll start with the top 20. I think his number 1 is perfectly fine. Bulls announcer Adam Amin.
Oh yeah, Adam.
Who doesn't like Adam Amin?
Yeah,
he's a solid announcer.
He's good at football too.
Yeah, not as good. There are some.
No,
he did a couple of Bear games where I'm like, I forget. There was a notable something happened that even on the TV thing, I'm like, oh no, that's coming back. And him and Sanchez didn't notice for 3 minutes. It was like, guys, it's right there, but that's fine.
Well, I think Sanchez drags him down a little bit, but yeah.
Sanchez is Tony Romo light, right? He tries to do all the Romo stuff and the weird, former. Do we consider Mark Sanchez former Bear? He never actually played in a game for the Bears, but he was on the roster.
Yeah,
so I guess it counts. Number 2, he was number 1 last year. He dropped. Cubs Hall of Famer Virgil Patrick Hughes.
Okay.
Who can disagree with Pat Hughes?
Yeah, he's just
actually, I know a guy. A bunch of us have a very good friend who hates Pat Hughes. I don't. I like Pat. I think Pat's
he's a quintessential radio guy. Yep.
Number 3, I don't agree with at all. Also with the Cubs, John Boog Shambi. I can't put him at 3. I would put him on this list, but I put him towards the bottom. I
got to hear the rest of the list, but yeah, that seems high.
I think Boog is they could have done a lot worse when Len left.
Oh yeah.
I'm not going to pretend they didn't. And I think Boog has his moments. I feel like, and I've said this on this podcast before, I feel like Boog's problem isn't a Boog problem, it's a Marquee problem. I feel like Marquee emphasizes some weird shit in those broadcasts, and he does it. He goes along with it. And because he's better on ESPN radio.
Oh yeah, did you ever hear him do a game on ESPN radio in the playoffs? Yeah. It's fantastic. Right.
But the Marquee stuff with it's weird because he's got a great partner. I really like Jim DeShays.
Yeah.
But there's always extra crap going on that it's just stop it. Just let the game breathe a little bit. A lot of that extra crap is the reason Len Casper left. He didn't want to deal with it.
Right.
So he did.
Right.
Number 4, Mark Silverman.
Okay, that's my friend.
I like Sylvie. I think he's good. I think he. It is funny though. He got that Bear column for Shaw newspapers.
Yeah,
and then he really took the Bears 10-game losing streak very hard.
Yeah,
it was very angry, Mark Silverman. For
the only thing that I would give Sylvie shit about is that I think he's becoming a little bit too much of the he's almost becoming the reactionary guy now on Twitter, or he's not on Blue Sky yet, but just everything's the Cubs didn't come to an agreement with that Kyle Tucker. What the fuck is going on? It's just he's becoming a little too meatball-y in his age.
Yeah.
But but otherwise, Sylvie's a great host.
Number 5, Dan Bernstein.
Oh, wow. That's high.
Way too high, I think. It's fine. I've had my issues listening to Dan over the years, and there have been times when there are certain things that happen that you want to hear Bernstein talk about it.
Yes.
And certain things happen that you don't want to listen to Bernstein talk about it. Which honestly, if you're a radio host, that's probably not a bad place to be.
Yeah.
There are certain things you're like, okay, you know who's going to actually have a good take about this? It's going to be Dan Bernstein. That's a good place, I think, to be. But I don't know. And he had the weird, and Agrest mentioned this. This was the year with the weird Barstool beef and stuff, which seems so
that was weird.
Old man yells at cloud thing. It's
that's what that was. He's definitely the guy that has the smarter take, but yeah, you got to put up with some of the other stuff. But no, Dan's good. Dan's really good.
They've got another score guy.
I'm just
lower on the
surprised
list
he's that
should
high.
be higher than him. Yeah, like
Okay.
he's the highest score guy.
Yeah.
Number 6, my buddy, your buddy, everybody's buddy, Dave Kaplan.
Oh yeah, the Cat Man.
I
I'm
guess
old
even
enough
gave
to
up
remember Dave Kaplan when he was just Dave Kaplan.
before he was the Cap.
Before he's
Cat
Cat
Man.
Man. He's different. He's different now.
He is. He's that was when he had hair.
Yeah, not so much, but
When he was still hanging on to his hair. It was pre-cryo,
hanging on.
pre-shower, making videos in the shower to send out.
Those things were not a thing when I first met Cap.
Number 7, from CHSN, although he hasn't done anything there yet, Ozzie Guillen.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah, I didn't expect to ever like Ozzie, but he's very good on that.
I especially love his Four Winds Casino reads.
His mastery.
Like, Ozzie, can you just say one word at a time?
Yes. He has the
Four Winds Casino.
the most indecipherable accent in Chicago.
Yes.
Is Ozzie Guillen. Number 8 is the score guy who should have been where Bernstein is, I think, Lawrence Holmes.
Yeah, Lawrence is great.
I like Lawrence. I think he's good. Number 9, maybe for her TV work. I hope it's not for the ESPN radio pregame show. Dion Miller.
Okay.
Dion seems way too high. And that her and Peggy on that morning show, not because I have no problem. I actually like the fact that there are women on there, but I listened to the two of them for about I cannot turn the channel fast enough. It's like, oh no. That's no.
Oh man,
I don't
you're
want to
being sexist. No,
I'm not.
I really enjoyed Dion. I think she's got some really great energy too. But I got to hear the rest of this list. But yeah, I think I don't usually listen to sports talk on Saturdays too often, so I'll abstain from making a comment on that show because I really haven't listened to it too much. But I do like Dion when she fills in with Sylvie. I think she's pretty great.
Right. That's why I don't. And I think Peggy's fine. I remember Peggy back from the old sports.
Oh, Peggy's
puddle
she's
days.
a pro. She knows her shit too.
Number 10, I feel like he's way overrated on this list, and I think he got credit because he had to put up with maybe the worst broadcaster in Chicago. Well, he doesn't work with Zach, but he works with another guy who's pretty bad. Steve Stone at number 10. I feel like he got a John Schifrin bump this year. They felt sorry for him. Like, let's put Stone at 10. Towards the end of his Cub career, I found Steve to be. Once Chip showed up, I just found Steve to be a pain in the ass. I was like, you. Pairing, yeah. I liked you and Harry. Post Harry, I don't have much use for you. Sorry. Did not bother me that he left. Didn't bother me that he came back and went to the Sox. I could give two shits. Number 11, Jason Goff. I like Goff. I think he's good.
Yeah, he's good. And I've actually listened to his podcast here and there. It's pretty solid.
It is too bad that and I know why he didn't. He wasn't going to hop right back into but it would have been nice to have had him and Holmes back together because Score tried to do that. They tried to join those two together.
Totally, yeah.
Which then would have given us the midday of Bernstein and Spiegel. Those two, there could have been fights every day. That would have been, even though Spiegel's like the most amiable guy in the world. Him and Bernstein do not appear to like each other.
No, I mean, shit. I mean, this is going back 10 years, but when I used to see Spiegs on the regular, he would pretty much confirm that.
Well, he would have been Dan. He was Dan and Terry's producer for a long time, right?
Yeah.
So he would have.
They called him.
Yes, meat pants. It should be fun to be called that forever. Number 12, Little Tommy Waddle.
Yeah, Tom's great.
Everybody loves Little Tommy Waddle.
He's also fun in person.
He seems like a very fun guy to like.
He is. Yeah, he is a party kind of guy.
Number 13.
One last thing I was just going to say. No, I just wanted to say that I think as much as, I'm friendly with Spiegs and I think he's great. Yeah, the Goff Holmes show would have been great.
Yeah, it was really good.
Different. Yeah, it would have been edgier.
A different. Yeah. Who was the guy that had come in to run things and he immediately broke them up? There were two too woke, too social.
Oh yeah,
Jesus,
yeah.
It was a good show. Just leave it alone.
Jimmy Greaseball. I forgot his name.
Yes, right. 13, Stacey King.
Oh, no.
I've always thought Stacey's fine.
That's too high though.
The Bulls are so irrelevant.
Yeah.
Really, we're putting him this high. He used to be the coach of the Ryford Lightning.
Oh, I do remember that. Yeah.
I also remember he wasn't a bad coach. I do love it. It reminds me. So when I was at NIU, I took both coaching basketball and coaching baseball with a guy named Walt Owens. His son Mel played for the Rams. And remember Mel Owens?
Mm-mm.
Walt, it used to drive him nuts that there were certain like former Bulls who were now coaches who would go on this thing about, we got to play better defense, we got to do whatever. And Walt had this like 10-minute rant that he would go into every once in a while about, I saw those assholes play for the Bulls. They didn't guard anybody. They never cared. They never tried. I always think of that with Stacey. Whenever Stacey talks about somebody either boxing out or playing defense, I'm like, Stacey, you played in this town for a long time. You didn't do any of that. We know. We watched.
Oh, yeah. Defense was not.
Shut up. Number 14, Chuck Garfien.
Okay, I like Chuck.
He's fine. He's coasting off of Ozzy. Number 15 almost made me light the paper on fire, but it wasn't a paper. It was my computer. I would have had to have burned it. Number 15. Oh, I'm going to find it. After I tell you who it is, then I'm going to read the description because I thought it was even more absurd. Zach Zaidman.
Oh, my goodness.
I think is the worst. I can't stand him. I literally, both Mike Donahue and I both have the same habit now. If we're out doing something, listening to the Cubs on the MLB app, when you get to the fifth inning, it's time to check out the other team's announcers for an inning. And both of us do it. Where did I put it? I left it up, I thought. Yes, I did. Number 15, Zach Zaidman. Last year, number 17, he actually moved up the list. His calls of DePaul games are electric. Who the fuck is listening to DePaul? Nobody. Jeff Agrest, apparently. He's the only one who ever listens to DePaul basketball. He filled in on Bulls TV and radio this season. He'll be back on Cubs radio too. One day he'll be in the NBA. Good. Get him there immediately.
Yeah, that would be.
Get him off Cub broadcasts. Send him to Sacramento. I can't handle the fake laugh from the back row during Cub broadcasts.
No,
it drives me nuts. It drives me insane.
It's pretty trite, yeah. I think I've heard media people tell me too that he's really much better at basketball. So that sounds
good,
great.
because he's no good at baseball. He sucks at baseball. He's not a good baseball announcer. He's the Jeff Joniak of baseball. You don't know where the ball is half the time.
Yeah, it's not a relaxing listen.
I get very, very concerned. I think we should, in the offseason, I think we should put Pat in bubble wrap because nothing can happen to him. Because if something happens to Pat, Zach, they're going to give him that job. And I can't have that happen. He's got to go get a job somewhere else. So Pat's got to, thankfully, Pat signed another 3-year deal or whatever it was.
Yeah.
He's got to eat his Wheaties because we can't lose him. Number 16, Layla Rahimi.
Okay,
I like
Layla.
I think she's good.
Layla's great.
Number 17,
versatile.
Almost as bad to me as number 15, Taylor McGregor.
Okay.
But I did what he wrote, though. Here's what he wrote. I don't agree at all with this first sentence. She does a fine job as Marquise field reporter. But she hit another level working the sideline for several bowl games at ESPN this year. That's fine. I hope she goes on. I hope she makes a lot of money. I hope she becomes a big hotshot sideline reporter for ESPN. Go do it. Just get off my Cub broadcasts. And again, I don't think Taylor's any good at this job. That's my big problem with Taylor. But I also think it just like Boog, Marquis misuses her. They overuse her.
Right. We've talked about this before.
Yes. There is not, you can't go to her 5 times a game. There's no sideline reporter in baseball that you can go to 5 times a game. There's not enough to talk about.
No.
So stop doing it. You're just making people actively mad at the person because now they're babbling because
they're exploiting her. They're like, let's go to the pretty blonde because it's like she, when, like you said, like when we hear John Sciambi do ESPN games, it sounds different. When you see her doing other sports, she does a great job. So yeah,
it is funny.
It's the broadcast. They're marqueing them.
Yeah. The marquee broadcast sucks. And it hasn't gotten any.
It's not what we're used to either. Yeah.
No, it's been bad for a long time, and they think it's great. They think it's a national quality broadcast. It's like, well, yeah. Most people think national broadcasts suck. So yes, you have a national quality broadcast. It sucks.
Yeah, if you're looking for dry, unconnected to your favorite team, sure.
Chuggo got somebody on the list.
Whoa.
Although maybe he could have got as much for the Athletic as for Chuggo because he does their podcast too. Adam Hogue.
Oh yeah, Adam Salad.
I feel like, and maybe I'm alone on this, I feel like Chuggo has made Hogue very hot takey. Like the reason I liked the Hogue and John's podcast was it was never a hot takey podcast. It was like two guys who cover the Bears, who had good inside information, who just talked about it. And over the last couple of years, Hogue, he has changed. The things he talks about, the things he gets all riled up about. And I'm like, I know this is from you. Chuggo, and they're ridiculous. We're going to do 5 podcasts a week for the Bears every week. That's so dumb.
Yeah.
And it forces you to like throw stupid stuff out. And then you sit next to a bricklayer who's just babbling. And then you just get used to just babbling. And I feel like that's what's happened to Hogue. So I would not.
Well, okay, in my defense, most of my Hogue exposure is from Adam and his podcast. So
that Athletic podcast is still
like that. Right.
I don't think it's as good as it was because I feel like Hogue is kind of going off the rails. But I think
okay, fair enough.
I still think it's a very good podcast. Right?
Yes, they work well together. Definitely works.
You know, they're good together. They have a good rapport together. They bring Fishbane every once in a while, and they make fun of him, which is fun.
I love Fishbane.
It's still a good podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Number 19, I heard Sam Fell's head explode. Darren Pang.
Ooh,
Blackhawk fans do not like Darren Pang.
No,
there's no reason for Darren Pang to be on this list. Number 20, outside of the box, and I've heard him on some. They
probably just had to throw somebody from the Blackhawks around, right?
They did. They should have done Rick Ball, right? The play-by-play. Everybody likes the play-by-play guy. Choose him. Number 20, Herb Howard, who I hear is a guest a lot on the Score. He's pretty good. Works for the Bigs, I guess. Not Brad Biggs.
Yeah, he just turned me off last year because he was riding high with the Justin, the never Caleb people.
Honestly, the Justin thing, I think Justin did fine with the Steelers. After week 6, he completed 0 passes and he ran for 32 yards. I think it was great. There was some weird guy writing for. I was looking for. What was I Googling? Something with the Steelers because I wanted to look something up after the playoff game, and all of a sudden this article popped up. And the headline caught my attention, which is what he wanted. And that was Rogue Drone ruins Justin Fields' playoff opportunity. I'm like, oh, I've got to read this. And so when you're watching the playoff game on Prime against the Ravens, there was this like weird delay and they went to commercial. And when they came back, they said there was a drone hovering over the stadium. Well, Justin had come in because it was like 3rd and 2 or whatever. And so clearly they sent him in. He was going to run. And then during the timeout, Tomlin changed his mind and he put Russell in. But this guy made it sound like they were changing quarterbacks and they were going to Justin, and Justin was going to bring the leaps he was making. Well, then Justin, his dynamic arm and leg combo, he was going to bring the Steelers back and and they were going to beat the Ravens, but he lost that opportunity because of that drone. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Justin was barely functional from week, that they're off. They changed because they couldn't pass the ball the first 6 weeks. They went 4-2, but they had no passing game, and that's why they changed. It's like, geez. It's funny, the Justin apologists. I like Justin, but I'm starting to like Justin less because of them. It has nothing to do with poor Justin. It's like, would you guys just shut up? All right, but now the good stuff. The bottom 5.
Ooh.
We'll go. He put him 5-1, so I'll do it that way.
Okay.
Number 5. You're going to see him at the convention when you go. He'll be handling the opening ceremonies, giving everybody a hilarious nickname, Cole Wright.
Ooh, yeah, that's.
And I got to read what Agris wrote because it really is good. Like he's got this nailed. He has hammered on Cole before, but he's right when he does. And no pun intended. The marquee studio host continues to speak in run-on sentences and make nonsensical statements. He still falls back on his 1990s SportsCenter shtick that makes viewers cringe. Take a breath, slow down, and think before you speak. I want to put a buzzer under his seat that will give him an electroshock every time he calls Ian Happ the Quiet Storm. I want him to say it, and then I want to zap him, and from my home, I want to see him fall out of the chair. That's what I want to see. Cole Ryan. Number 4.
Yeah, he's bad.
It's a Bear radio announcer. It's not the one I want, but I also don't think it's wrong. Tom Thayer. That broadcast is bad. And Agros makes the point.
Bad, yeah.
It's like he's been doing it. He's been doing it for 25 years. It's time to get somebody else, right? Somebody who, I mean, we really still going. We still need a Super Bowl Bear. Actually, how about this? Even though he was a Super Bowl Bear, just give it to Ron Rivera. If he's wandering around the parking lot, you give him a job. Put Chico in there. It'll be fine. I don't know how Joniak doesn't make the bottom 5 list, though. He's so terrible. I can't get over how bad he is at his job. And it was fun to go back when Matt Eberflus had the aneurysm on the sidelines in Detroit. And immediately on Twitter and even on Blue Sky, people were quickly like putting the Bears audio under the last 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And you get Joniak going, something looks wrong. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. Yes, we know you don't know what's going on. He never says the Bears lose. He basically, you don't know if you're on the radio that the game's over because Joniak doesn't ever say it. I also noticed there's the call of the Hail Mary. He never says it's a touchdown, ever.
Oh, wow.
So if you're in your car, you have no idea. You're driving around like, why is everybody going nuts? Was it pass interference? What happened? And he never says it. I say, oh, for God's sakes. Number 3, my buddy, David of the Score. But that's not enough. Guess who number 2 is? Mike Mulligan.
Wow.
And they are terrible. Like, Agros is like, I know they have the number 1 rated show. That doesn't mean it's any good.
Oh, wow.
Because they're not. They're not good. They're awful. He makes fun
pissed,
of
though.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Who will know? He's just grunting into the microphone. And like Agros makes fun of how often Mike gets too far away from the microphone and then you can't hear him.
He totally does that.
It's like, did you leave? Good. Oh, you're back. Damn. He makes fun of for CHSN promoting him as all his great hot takes. And they're like, and then you listen to him on the radio and he's the most boring person ever who never says anything. And then Mulligan is just a stuttering buffoon, which I love. And then number 1, no one can argue with this year. John Schifrin.
Oh, God. That's, yeah. They should have his own category for him.
It was the worst team in baseball history deserved that. That was good. I have friends who are White Sox fans, but I enjoy the fact that they had just the most miserable year ever. And I hope it's worse this year somehow. We didn't make the list, Tom. They put somebody from Chuggo on here, but nobody from Pointless Exercise made the list.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, next year. That'll be it. All right. Well, this was fun. Enjoy the convention.
Thank you. I will.
Yeah, enjoy the dance party. And we will catch up. We can talk about all the stuff that happened at the convention. When we do this next
see you at bingo.
All right. All right. B19.
Many of us have herpes.
No, I thought it generally sucked. I didn't think it was a specific suck. I thought it was like an all-encompassing type of suck. So, we're going to try and rectify that. But for right now, I'm going to be pretty pissed about it.
It's fitting. It's got to be done with one of the best games of all time. Just unbelievable. Got to congratulate the Dolan family.
Sean, my podcast co-host Andy, you were his favorite player growing up.
Oh, thank you so much, awesome.